This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Feelings are hard. Emotions and growth is hard. Black mental health matters.
Change can be exhausting. That's why the Black Lives Matter movement is taking time to focus on mental health, how they hope to keep the passion from their cause from burning out.
Brenda, I don't know if you've seen this video yet. This is absolutely crazy. We're talking about a man in a wheelchair who gets stuck on the train tracks as a train comes barreling down on him. What we didn't see there, a police officer, here we go, a police officer pulling him out of the way just in the nick of time. We're going to hear from that officer after an incredible life-saving effort.
Wow. Okay, also coming up, this is pretty incredible. Rip City is pumped this morning. Fans were holding their breath last night. The Blazers squeaking out a one-point win against the Nets, keeping them in the hunt for a playoff spot.
Yeah, they are right there, Brenda. One more win and they're in. And this is where we find Rod Hill this morning, checking out Troutdale and finding out why the people there love their town. It is the latest installment of Rod on the Road.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We have made it to the end of the work week. Rod left us that great story on Troutdale, but he's actually off today. So Chris McGinnis is here doing weather duty.
Yeah, we're going to check in with Chris here in just a minute. But first, we do want to get our viewers caught up on the latest on the wildfire in the gorge. We're talking about the Moser Creek fire, Brenda and Chris. It's been holding steady at 800 acres now for really about the past 24 hours. This is the view from Sky 8 last night, and from what we could see, the flames were much smaller than we saw near the end of our sunrise show yesterday morning. So right now, the fire is just about 5% contained, and 900 homes are still under mandatory or voluntary evacuation orders. Yesterday afternoon, we can show you this video now. Planes and helicopters flew in for water drops. A spokesman confirmed that 4 structures have been destroyed, but it wasn't clear if those were homes or if they were outbuildings. You know, anyone who lives between, say, the Dalles and Moser, where this fire is burning right now, they know all too well about the dangers of fire season.
We've lived here for a long time, and wildfire is just a fact of life. And we spend a lot of time every spring doing mowing and thinning and the like, you know, to maintain a buffer.
It is still not clear exactly how this fire started, but investigators say it is human caused. FEMA also announced yesterday it's paying for a lot of the cost to fight this fire, and they added another $600,000 to help with cleanup. So we mentioned getting to Chris here. Chris, let's start your first weather report of the day with the the conditions impacting that wildfire in the gorge.
Well, here's the good news as far as those fire conditions are concerned right now, and probably why fire crews, one of the reasons why fire crews were probably able to get a little bit more of a handle on it. The winds are not all that strong through the gorge, and we know the gorge can be just a virtual wind tunnel, right? That is not happening now, so we're happy to tell you that. That said, it is still incredibly dry. It's going to get warmer and downright hot in the gorge this weekend, so the fire may have a chance to kind of regain some oomph, and that's something that obviously the fire crews are going to be watching very, very carefully. But the wind right now, I'm happy to say, is not a huge issue through the gorge yet. The heat will be an issue not only for the gorge but for all of us, guys. I've got the Easter egg colors out here. Excessive heat warnings and heat advisories up for a lot of the area west of the Cascades. I've got more on that coming up in your hot weekend forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you so much, Chris. And now to an update on that major standoff in Bend between protesters and federal officers. Hundreds of people came out to protest and block buses that had 2 men detained by immigration and customs enforcement inside. The district attorney for Deschutes County says city and local officials tried to de-escalate the situation, but federal agents broke up the crowd using batons and pepper spray.
The answer we got was, this decision is at the top of our government, the very top. I took that to mean Chad Wolf, Attorney General Barr, and President Trump. And the response we got was clear. They did not want to broker a peaceful resolution.
During a court hearing yesterday, we learned both men detained by ICE are now being held at a detention facility in Tacoma. ICE says both men had warrants and violent criminal records. GoFundMe sites set up for the men, though, describe them as loving fathers, husbands, and longtime Central Oregon residents. Well, here in Portland, protests downtown were remarkably calm overnight. This comes just a day after police declared a riot. Our crews saw very few protesters outside the Justice Center last night. The crowd was nowhere near the size we've seen for the past 70-plus days. The calm comes as Oregon State Police stopped protecting the federal courthouse. They took over for federal agents 2 weeks ago in a deal between Governor Kate Brown and the Trump administration. OSP says it had a 2-week commitment that ended on Wednesday. In a statement from a captain, he says in part, "We are inclined to move our resources back to counties where prosecution of criminal conduct is still a priority." That appears to be directed at the Multnomah County DA, who said he wouldn't prosecute a lot of the protesters who got arrested. Another peaceful Black Lives Matter protest took place at Jamison Square in the Pearl District last night. It started off with a march, then crowds listened to musicians and speakers. A sit-in followed and demonstrators stayed until a little after midnight. Well, after more than 10 weeks of protests, one activist group wants to focus on the mental health of the Black community.
So, Brenda, that group held a rally at Peninsula Park in North Portland yesterday. Bryant Clerkley joins us now live with more on this story. Good morning, Bryant.
Good morning, Drew and Brenda. Now, this group is called Black Unity PDX, and its main concern is the mental and emotional health of the Black community during these times. Rami Gunn is an activist with the group, and she feels that that emotional growth can really take a toll. She was in charge of yesterday's mental health discussion and says the protests are tearing people down and making some feel anxious and scared. The activists say they want people to start talking about mental health in the Black community.
The emotional toll that I've had is just crazy. It's crazy. I've honestly, without the support that I've had, I would honestly have hit rock bottom.
It's hard to let yourself feel like you are growing when you have those days where you are feeling great and then 2 seconds later you're like, what happened? I thought I was doing great. Why did I crash? Because it's part of growth. You're not supposed to be happy all the time.
And above all, the group wants people to remember to love yourself so you can love others too. And we do have the number for the National Suicide Prevention Line if you are struggling, and that number is 1-800-273-TALK.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. We're going to stay in downtown Portland for this next story because starting this fall, Portland State University campus police will not be armed. Students and activists have been calling for this change for a long time, for years as a matter of fact. Those calls really grew louder after a PSU officer shot and killed Jason Washington outside a bar near campus back in 2018. PSU says it's beginning a process that it calls reimagining public safety. A diverse task force will develop a new approach to policing on campus that addresses issues of systemic racism. City Council, meanwhile, gave approval to one of the biggest changes in zoning in Portland in almost 3 decades. After 4 years of going back and forth, commissioners passed the residential infill project this week. So this project allows for single-family lots to be rezoned for multi-family housing, things like duplexes or triplexes, even fourplexes. Advocates say this will help create more affordable housing across the entire city.
Okay, deep breath. We got to talk a little sports this morning, right? Specifically, Blazer basketball. Rip City is loving this, Drew, as Portland's playoff path continues this morning.
You know, one of the biggest fans of the Blazers in this newsroom, at least on the Sunrise Show, is one of our editors, Jay Lundenberg.
Yes.
He was texting me last night, like I could hear his sighs and his joy by the end, right? I mean, it was not easy. It was absolutely close. Let's check out the highlights. A fight to the last second, you might call it. Damian Lillard, you know, off night for Dame. He only had 42 points. Where was the 60-point effort, Dame? Or at least 50, come on. Bottom line, those 42 points by Dame, just enough because they won by 1 point. 134-133, the final score. Here's the bottom line. They are absolutely now guaranteed the 8th seed, and that means they will compete in that play-in game. It could be a play-in series of games depending on what happens this weekend. So they're going to take on the 9th-seeded Grizzlies. They play tomorrow. If the Blazers win, they're in the playoffs. If they lose tomorrow, Brenda, they'll have to play the Grizzlies again on Sunday, and whoever wins on Sunday would get into the playoffs.
Let's watch that go in one more time. Bam. Love that.
Are you following what's going on here now? Pretty simple, Chris. Win tomorrow, and the Blazers are in. Lose tomorrow, and they can still win on Sunday and get in. Lose 2 in a row, and we'll all be upset Monday morning.
Well, then you don't deserve it. It's pretty simple,
Right.
right? They're gonna win. We got this, right? It's gonna be an awesome weekend as far as that's concerned. But if you don't like the heat, stay inside, watch some Blazer basketball, right? Because that's what we got coming our way. Let's take you live outside right now as we look down at Tillicum Crossing on a Friday morning. This is from our Wells Fargo Sky Camera. And last check at PDX, we were a nice, cool, comfortable 57 degrees. That's about as cool as we're going to be over the next 3, 4, 5 days. So enjoy it. Air out the house now, right? There's our day planner for Friday, mid-70s by lunchtime, and we will be warmer today. We're forecasting actually 87 for a high this afternoon. And then the heat is on this weekend. Sunny and hot on Saturday, 100, 101 on Sunday. Tomorrow's record, by the way, 102. So we're going to be close. There is an excessive heat warning in effect for the I-5 corridor from Vancouver all the way down to Medford. And then that peach shading, which includes the Coast Range and the Cascade Foothills under a heat advisory until 9 o'clock on Sunday. So we're talking about a real hot weekend. Let's get a quick look at Futurecast. This is Saturday afternoon, and again, triple-digit heat in a lot of locations, and maybe better than that, maybe better than 100 in some areas. Not only Saturday, but Sunday. So hot stuff coming our way for the weekend for sure. All right, let's get a look at the 7-day, which actually shows us staying in some pretty warm weather here for the next several days. We take the edge off the heat on Monday, but it's, 94 any other given day would be considered pretty warm, right? So we're not out of the 90-degree heat, I think, until Wednesday of next week. And suddenly August is looking like a hot month, guys.
My pale, fragile body will have to survive Sunday before we can even start to talk about next week.
My brown skin doesn't like it either, Drew. It's not just you, I'm telling you.
It hurts, Brenda. 100 degrees hurts. Let's talk about what we have coming up after this commercial break, because I know it includes some of that crazy video we talked about earlier out of California.
It is insane. It shows the moment a police officer saved a man from a wheelchair, from getting hit by a train. We're going to hear from the police officer when we come back. Also coming up this morning, tons of claims circulating right now about getting kids back to school during the pandemic. Like, do kids get less severe versions of coronavirus? And should I even send my kid to class? Our Verify team is finding answers for you.